isn't a particularly hazardous occupation, but there are risks to working with sharp objects such as needles and shears. A dressmaker should get the right tools. Investing in high-quality tools and supplies is one of the best things she can do. Not only will they last longer and work better, but they reduce the chances of catastrophe. For example, a cheap pair of scissors won't cut easily, which means she'll need to get more aggressive while cutting her fabric, which could lead to injury. A dressmaker should use proper posture. But slouching at her sewing machine can strain her neck, shoulders, and back. Eventually, this may lead to chronic pain or even repetitive strain injury. Don't hunch over her sewing machine like a caveman. Sit herself directly in front of the needle, pull her foot pedal close, put her feet flat on the floor, and sit up straight. As a bonus, sitting back while her sewing may prevent injury if her needle breaks and tiny shards of metal go flying toward her face. Like sewing over a finger or clipping her fabric while trying to trim an errant thread. A dressmaker should make sure her shears, needles, and pins are sharp. While this may seem counterintuitive to safety, it's actually smart. Any chef will tell her that the sharper her tools are, the easier they are to use. If she's trying to work with dull pins, she'll have to push harder to get them to pierce her fabric, which means there's a greater chance of stabbing herself by accident. The same goes for needles, scissors, and shears, plus they'll work a lot better if they're sharp, which makes her jobs less frustrating. A dressmaker should not sew over her fingers. This may seem like a no-brainer, but lots of dressmakers head to the ER every year because they got their fingers too close to the needle while machine is sewing. Do her utmost to keep her fingers away from the needle while she's sewing. If she's working on a tricky seam, instead of reaching next to the needle to keep the fabric straight, use an awl, a pointed chopstick, a small crochet hook. A dressmaker should not put pins in her mouth. Many dressmakers work with pins in their mouth, not realizing how dangerous it is. It's easy to accidentally swallow pins or worse, to inhale them. A dressmaker should not sew over her pins. Plenty of experienced sewers think nothing of stitching right over their pins. Doing so is a risk. However, if the needle hits a pin and don't delude herself, sooner or later it will happen. A dressmaker should turn off her sewing machine before changing the needle. It's all too easy to accidentally tap the foot pedal while changing the needle. A dressmaker should not stretch power cords across the floor. If she needs to use an extension cord, try to run it along the edges of the room so it won't get tripped on. If she tries to plug too many things into one outlet, it could cause her circuit breaker to trip, shutting her power off. A dressmaker should dispose of broken pins and needles safely. Suppose she dropped something important into the trash and need to fish it out. She may end up with broke needles or bent needles buried in her carpet. A dressmaker should not keep animals out of the sewing room. Many dressmakers enjoy the company of their pets while they sew. But in addition to being pesky helpers, animals can get injured by things you might not expect. Don't let a foolish mistake ruin her enjoyment of sewing. With a healthy dose of caution and common sense, she'll be able to sew safely.